So along with chapter 16, we're also going to be attaching chapter 18. So this next test is a unit test on chapters 16 and 18. They're both geometry. With chapter 18, this will go really short, just a couple short lessons, because all chapter 18 is just some use of formulas. So we're not even really doing formal lesson notes for this. I just need to remind you of a couple ideas when it comes to using these formulas, and it's just going to be a matter of using the formula. So in the first lesson, we're just looking at two-dimensional shapes. And I'll show you a couple examples here in just a second, but this is in your formula packet. This is right here at 5.0. So there's two areas of formulas for geometry. This is just one of them, and we'll go to the other one for the three-dimensional shapes. But for two-dimensionals, you get a couple basic formulas that we can put to use. Area of a parallelogram, which is just base times height. Keep in mind that a square is a parallelogram. A rectangle is a parallelogram. So those are all fall under this category right here. So we can always do base times height on any parallelogram, which would include a square and a rectangle. Area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. Remember that we did see for the area of a triangle, if it's a non-right triangle, you can also use the other formula, which is 1/2 AB sine C. So that's the other area of a triangle formula that we have. This one is intended for right triangles. One thing you always keep in mind with bases and heights when they put them into a formula like this, and this will be true with a trapezoid as well, is the base and the height must be perpendicular lines. In order for these to work as a base and a height, they have to be perpendicular to each other. So make sure that that's what you have when you go to use those numbers. That's important. Trapezium, you know better as a trapezoid. I'll show you a diagram on one of those here in a minute, but it's 1/2 the sum of the bases times the height. So again, the height would be perpendicular to these two segments in order for that to be true. And then you got area of a circle, circumference of a circle. We're not going to make much use out of these guys for this. It's really just a matter of these formulas that you see here. So anyway, let me just show you something out of your book. This is what we're working with. At the start of this chapter, now this is chapter 18 in your book. This is the old book, but you're still going to see the same stuff in your book for chapter 18. They might use some different lettering than what the formula packet uses. Go by the formula packet, not what you see in your book, because it's the formula packet that you're going to use on your test. So I just wanted to show you a couple diagrams here. So again, for any parallelogram, and this would include a square and a rectangle, you're just doing base times height. All right, and so again, you got to make sure that your height and your base are perpendicular to each other, just like you see right here in that diagram. For a triangle, again, you can do 1/2 base times height as long as you have a perpendicular base and height. If you don't have a perpendicular base and height, you got to go to the other area formula, which is the 1/2 AB sine C. So here's a trapezoid. Again, they call it a trapezium. You know this probably better as a trapezoid. So if this is my height, then the C and the B are the two bases that I would use right here in that formula, because these two segments, whatever they are, have to be perpendicular to the height. And so you can see that within the layout that you see on this example right here. You will be asked some other questions like perimeter, but for perimeter, in regards to all of this, the only thing you need to know about perimeter is that you add up all the sides. So you really don't have to memorize a perimeter formula for any of this. You won't even really make use of a perimeter formula. It's just a knowledge of knowing that I have to add all the sides to get a perimeter is all you got to know for perimeter. Here's what we got for the circle. All right, we know we don't call it a perimeter, we call it a circumference, 2 pi r. Do keep in mind that twice the radius is the diameter, so you can also write this as pi d, or pi times diameter, same thing. And then pi r squared for the area. And so these are nice. They at least give you some examples and some formulas, but again, make use of the formula packet, not necessarily what's in here. So my only thing that I would want to cover going into some of the things that you'll see today, again, is just making sure that you're just plugging numbers into the formula. That's really all we're doing today. So I'm not going through a lot of examples for this. I just wanted to point out the formulas and then just remind you of a couple things that have to be true, like dealing with perpendicular lines if you're going to use a base and a height. examples like this. So when you get to some of these that are a little more complicated looking, just stick with some basic things. In a diagram like this one for part A, it's the matter of finding the area of a triangle plus the area of a rectangle. So you would just find those two shapes separately and then add your answers together. When it comes to a diagram like this, right, it's a matter of subtraction. I'm going to find the area of the big circle minus the area of these two little circles. But it's still nothing more than just using the formula. So again, it's just subtraction on that. You would subtract, in this case, the big rectangle minus the little rectangle. This one does come with, this is really the best use of this one, would be the area of a rhombus. But for this case, which is where you just do like 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So if I did 1/2 times 10 times 12, that would give me the area. Now, we're not going to be tested on that because that's not a shape that's in our formula packet. I'm just pointing it out for the sake of homework. So anyway, that's all we're going to see here for lesson 1 of chapter 18, just because it's just pure formulas. So have your formula packet handy and just use that to plug in the numbers as you go through. Show your work, that's really important. Show the setup that you're using. For those of you taking the IB test, remember they want you to include units. So remember, make sure you're doing that.